It should
We are
be.
live. And we are.
Okay, great. So it takes me a few minutes. Well, good evening, everyone. This is the day that the Lord has made. We shall rejoice and be glad in it. So grateful for St. Paul's Health Ministry team and bringing relevant information not only to our congregation, but to the community at large. We know that COVID-19 has been on everybody's mind for almost a year now. And we want to be responsible in order to give you relevant and credible information so that you can feel informed to make a decision that will not only impact you, but will impact your family and impact your neighbor, okay? So today we're going to be questioning whether or not the COVID-19 vaccine is actually safe. Grateful that we have Dr. Angela Starworth, who is giving up her time. At this time, we're going to have a word of prayer. I'm going to turn it over to Sister Crystal Nelson, who is one of our coordinators for our health ministry. And then I'm going to say, Tag, you're it. But let us pray. Our most grateful and loving God, it's in a spirit of humility that we approach your throne of grace, realizing in times like these, God, that we abide in your grace, but God, we are calling on for your mercy. So tonight, God, as we enter into this discussion, God, I'm asking you to give us insight, give us wisdom, and give us an open mind to receive what is being said. But above all, God, give us wisdom that we may make decisions, Father God, that line up with your will. It's in Jesus' name that I do pray. And the people of God in agreement said, amen.
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 Sister Crystal.
All right. So tonight, just like she said, we will be discussing the COVID-19 vaccination, and we are so excited that Dr. Stallworth is here with us. She's going to do her own introduction and just talk about her background as to why she is actually qualified to give us that information. But as we get started, I know some of you will be watching on Facebook. So if you know that this information is going to be beneficial to someone else, please think about them and go ahead and share this information so that they can receive this, this informative, factual information, okay? And also, if you are viewing on Zoom, if you're not trying to bring up a question or interact at that moment, if you could put yourself on mute, and then if you have a question, you can unmute, and then you'll be able to ask your question. So at this time, we're going to let Dr. Stallworth come to us and just tell us everything that she knows about this COVID-19 vaccine. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Crystal. I am so super excited to come to you tonight. I feel that it is my responsibility as a doctor of color to make sure that you guys are getting correct information. We have a long history of mistrust in the medical community, and if I can address some of those concerns tonight, that I have reached my goal. And if I have convinced one of you to get the vaccine after completing this presentation, I would also deem that a success. I am a board certified family medicine physician. I work for Baptist Health. I have been practicing medicine for over 16 years. I am currently faculty at the family medicine residency in Montgomery, and I am so super proud of the work that I do. But nothing is more beneficial than me getting out of the clinic and actually getting into community and doing talks just like I'm doing today, to be able to sit around in a relaxed atmosphere for you to ask your questions and things that you're concerned about. Because believe it or not, the same concerns that you have, I've had as well. So it's with me taking all of that knowledge and doing some research myself, coming to some conclusions myself, looking at the research and data and drawing the conclusion. I am going to hope today that I can impart to you, and my husband told me to keep it simple. So my best is not to give you a whole bunch of medical jargon and things that don't make sense to you, but try to make it plain so you can make an informed decision. Because it is a decision at the end of the day. but I hope that I can make it a little bit more clearer for you tonight, okay? So Crystal gave me a list of questions that I have sprinkled throughout my presentation. At the very end, there are some questions that I have left over that I also want to address. And just to kind of keep it fluid too, there may be questions, if you let me get through it, that I may answer for you. So if there's no other things, we'll go ahead and get started, okay? My first couple of slides are going to be educational, just to understand the virus and how it affects the human body itself. The main piece that I'm going to focus on is the why. A lot of questions are, this came up extremely fast. How did they do it? There's a lot of mistrust there. I need to understand that piece. So I'm going to spend a lot of my presentation on those whys, okay? So bear with me as we go through a little bit of the knowledge about the actual virus itself. So coronavirus, there are numerous coronaviruses that are out there in the environment. Corona means crown. And I have a little schematic of what that virus looks like under the electron microscope, so a very powerful microscope. And you can see it looks like a little circle with a projection on the outside. I want you to remember those projections, because as we talk about how they develop the vaccines, those little projections on the outside of that virus are going to mean something, okay? So we have been dealing with coronaviruses throughout our history. And we see a seasonal coronavirus every year that causes the common cold. So just to know that people said this is a new virus, there have been a family of coronaviruses out there, but this particular one is new on the scene, okay? So let me explain some doctor terminology. So give me a minute to float into doctor world in the world. So severe acute respiratory distress coronavirus 2 is what we have scientifically named COVID, the virus that causes COVID-19. So there is severe acute respiratory distress coronavirus 1. This is number 2. And number 2 is causing the disease that we see today, which is COVID-19. Okay, so just a little bit of just doctor terminology. So if someone gets exposed to the virus itself, it basically goes inside the human body, and for 2 to 5 days, it uses your body as like a virus replicating factory. So during this time, you may not have any symptoms at all, but you have been exposed to the virus. The infectious period, that's when symptoms may start to appear, and when individuals have the ability to spread the virus. The things that we're coming to realize is that during the infectious period, the individual may not have symptoms at all. So when this first came out, a lot of us were looking for people, they said, look for the symptoms, the flu-like symptoms, cough, cold, runny nose, muscle aches and pains, fevers. So we're looking for people that were sick. But we now know that there's a period when you're infectious that people may be asymptomatic. And some of you may have known individuals that have been diagnosed with COVID that were asymptomatic the entire time. I call this virus the tornado. It can cause mild symptoms in one, cause mild symptoms in the other, but cause severe symptoms in somebody else that will lead to ICU and death. And for the life of me, we have not been able to explain why it misses this one, and will hurt this one. Still haven't figured that out. So symptoms usually 2 to 14 days after exposure, usually beginning around roughly day 5. But the people that will go on to develop moderate to severe symptoms and ultimately die, symptoms usually range between 9 to 25 days, okay? So just kind of get you to see that spectrum. What has been the Achilles heel of this virus in the infectious process is that asymptomatic shedding. The individuals that are passing the virus on unbeknownst to them, okay? Everybody with me so far?
Yes.
Okay, I got some thumbs up. All right. Every now and then I'm going to pause and say, let me give you a minute. Anybody want to chime in before I go to the next slide? Okay, so we're going on. Common symptoms, and we see these all the time in no specific order: fever, cough, shortness of breath. Shortness of breath when people exert themselves, getting up to go to the bathroom or cleaning the kitchen. They can have fatigue and just basically myalgia is I just don't feel good. Loss in taste and smell was one of those unique features that we began to see a couple of months after people said they couldn't taste or smell. And I remember one of my MAs coming to me and said, "Is that a symptom?" I'm like, "Not that I know of." It began to evolve, and now we begin to see other things that are associated with the virus. And then there's the other little known things. People can have loose stools, they can have chest pain. Some people may have headaches, sore throat, and different types of things. And did you ever know that they actually have something called COVID toes? It can actually cause changes or discoloration around the margins of the toenails. They call it COVID toes. So there's different types of physical manifestations that this virus can cause. But the ones that we can't predict is who's going to have the mild case, something they can sit around at home and get over, and who's going to develop more moderate to severe symptoms that will lead to hospitalization and death. We all have been touched by this virus. We all know individuals that have gotten over it, and we all know individuals, family, and friends that have died. We just don't know the individual that it'll affect severely. Okay, so far? So let's talk about people at increased risk. So I'm gonna make this smaller. So we have our individuals that are, especially individuals over the age of 65, are vulnerable elderly. They have always been at increased risk, especially because they have other medical comorbidities, hypertension, diabetes, dementia, that puts them at an increased risk. So of course, over 65 is automatically an increased risk. Individuals of color, most of everybody on this call, just being a patient of color has an increased risk. And then they add several other comorbidities. So I have the list here. They call COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. If you are obese with a BMI greater than 30, if you have severe heart disease or sickle cell, type 2 diabetes, pregnancy, common kidney disease, you can read the list yourself. That we say these individuals are at increased risk of developing more severe complications from COVID. So this will make more sense when I talk to you about the vaccine rollout. But just know that's how we categorize and we kind of stratify patients as to who we think may have a more severe case of COVID if they were to become infected, okay? So high risk individuals. With me so far still? Everybody's good?
Yeah.
So how is it transmitted? Here is the piece that I definitely need everybody to know. So primarily through respiratory droplets. So basically you've sneezed or you've coughed and you've seen things fly out of your mouth. Those things are how the virus is transmitted. So we know that wearing a mask can prevent those respiratory droplets from getting out and getting to your neighbor, your friends, your family. That's why masks are important. The aerosolization, so if you're singing or projecting or coughing, that's why the 6 feet is important, and social distancing, because we know respiratory droplets, less than 6 feet, those guys end up hitting the ground. But now we know that it can be aerosoled into the air, and those can travel much further than 6 feet. So social distancing and wearing a mask, I'm hoping I'm getting to you why those things are important.
Question before you. I know we've seen on social media, people feel like if they just wear a mask, they can still go out and hang out and go to parties or be present in the same building as long as they have on masks. Can you speak to that and tell us if it's safe or not?
So definitely wearing a mask and a properly worn mask has been proven to protect you from, again, transmitting the virus. But using all of these factors together with hand washing and social distancing just further improves that chance of you not contracting it. So wearing a mask is definitely doing something. Adding the other pieces just further protects you against the transmission. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. So it's important to note that that viral shedding period is being the part that has put us most at risk of making it so difficult to contain, because individuals may have been infected unknowingly, and if they don't use those precautions, they could be spreading the virus amongst their peers, family members, and things of that nature. So the viral titers, so once you become infected, are highest 1 to 2 days before the onset of symptoms. So basically, when the virus gets into your body and there's nothing to stop it, and it begins to replicate, it's the first 1 to 2 days before you develop symptoms is when it's at its highest factory making capability. Okay. So asymptomatic individuals are the major contributor to the spread of the vaccine. You don't see it coming. So that's why you went and got your hair done at the hairdresser, and then 2 days later she tells you, oh, I tested positive for COVID. And you're like, what? She may not have been symptomatic at the time. She didn't know. She became symptomatic 2 to 3 days afterwards, and that's how you know. And so people are not being malicious, they just don't know. Okay? All right, my slides are catching up with me. We're coming. So this important slide, I want you to understand the importance of wearing a mask. On your left-hand side, this is somebody that may be a COVID-19 carrier, and on the other side is a healthy person. So you can see you're at lowest risk if you both are wearing a mask. Those respiratory droplets cannot be shared between the two of you. And you're at highest risk if neither one of you are wearing a mask, okay? If either party decides to wear a mask, they consider that medium risk, but nothing is better than you both choosing to wear a mask, okay? So if nothing else, I'm gonna be hanging to the word, wear your mask. It's not political. It should not be a debate. It's just simple science and common sense, okay? Any questions? All right. So the mitigation strategies we've all gone over: washing your hands, social distancing, and properly wearing a mask. The mask should cover your nose and your mouth. I know you've seen individuals with the mask on their chin, the mask around their neck, the mask sideways. A properly worn mask covers your nose and your mouth properly, okay? So if you see somebody not wearing it properly, you can just let me pull that up for you. Let me pull that down for you. Or can you put your mask on properly, and then we can carry on our conversation. But what I want to definitely spend time on is about getting vaccinated. The point of this talk was to talk about the pros and cons of getting vaccinated, and that's where I want to spend the majority of our time. And I know it's where you have the majority of your questions. So before I launch into this, I am a card-carrying member of the Pfizer vaccine. I've gotten my 2 shots. I am still here to do this presentation for you today. I am living proof that you can make it, you can survive. But I want to spend some time talking about the questions that you legitimately have that I have. Why so fast? I'm not understanding that. Back in the day when you're talking about the measles, mumps, rubella, or the influenza vaccine, those took years to develop. So how was this done so fast? What I want to be clear about is that when you look at the National Institute of Health and the CDC, everybody has come together and say that the overall goal is that we have got to save human lives within the United States. We need to come up with a vaccine that is safe, that's effective, and we need to do it warp speed. We need to do this fast because we're losing Americans right and left, okay? So the questions I want to answer is, how did they do it that fast? Number one, I need to spend some time on the new technology that they're utilizing now to develop vaccines. When I say new technology, meaning this technology didn't come up this just year. This technology is probably over a decade old. And now they've had an opportunity to now pull it off the shelf. And let's say for this pandemic, will this work? And we're a month into it and looks like things are quite promising, okay? So number one, they're utilizing new vaccine technology that has not historically been utilized in the vaccines that you currently are aware of. Your Tdap and your tetanus and your measles, mumps, rubella, and chickenpox and flu. This is not the same technology, number one. Two, this was not just involving the United States. This is a pandemic. It involves the world. So you have China, you have South Korea, you have the United Kingdom, you have Australia, you have all of these different countries that are pulling together with the United States because we're all facing the same virus, okay? So it's multinational, and all of these different countries are doing clinical trials together, okay? So you have new technology. It's going across multiple nations doing clinical trials. And guys, the funding is unlimited. It's just like somebody said, here's the checkbook and do whatever you need to do. You have an open checkbook to do what you need to do to save lives. And that's what they did. Now you add all of that together, new technology, limitless funding, and trials across different nations working together. And that's how they came up with it. I'm going to talk to you guys about the vaccines that were currently used or being used in the United States. But guys, there are over 10 vaccines now that are going through clinical trials. 10. So by the end of the year, we only hear about Pfizer and Moderna. But there are several others that are still out there in clinical trials that you may hear before the end of the year. So it's cutting edge knowledge to you guys because the lay population doesn't even know that. They just know what they hear today. But I'm telling you, there are over 10, I'll tell you 10 different vaccines that are out there. You just know about 2 right now, okay? Any questions? All right, let that marinate. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna let that marinate a little bit because people are like, I don't know what to ask. I'm gonna let that marinate just a bit. So look at the money. This is the top 10 governmental agencies funding for COVID-19 vaccine research and development. Look at the United States. You see that many commas? That's 2, 642, 896, 885.
God, that's
This is the money they have poured into the research, and it's not just us. Germany is behind us, United Kingdom behind us, Norway behind it. All this is pots of money that is going into research and development. If somebody gave me $1 million, I would find a way to spend it, okay? So all of these countries are throwing all of their money behind a single focus, okay? So you got unlimited dollars. Ready? Now let's talk about the technology. Now I don't want you to really, because my husband said, and I have my medical assistants help me with this, because if I get you to understand this part, it'll be the light bulb will just go off in your head, okay? There is conventional technology that we've used with the old vaccines. I'm talking about next generation technology. So that's what they use to develop, the front runners, okay? So the Moderna and the Pfizer. The guys who came out the block first, they're using this technology. So bear with me a minute. When the virus came out in Wuhan, in China, they were able to basically map the entire genetic code for this virus. So to break that down in layman's terms, they would basically put out the blueprint for this virus, okay? They said that it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a chimney and a driveway, right? They gave us the entire blueprint for what this new virus was. And so what this technology is, now think back to that original slide where I showed you what the virus looked like under the electron microscope, right? It's a big sphere with little projections on the outside. So when the Chinese gave us what the virus blueprint looked like, these smart scientists said, well, we just need that little piece of the code or the blueprint for that projection on the outside. Once we know what that projection is called the S spike protein. So if I can get that little piece of genetic material and place it inside the human body and make it make some of that S protein, then our body will see that little piece of that genetic material and then mount an immune response to it. You understand? So people think, number one, first myth, that I'm getting injected with coronavirus. You are not being vaccinated with a coronavirus. This ain't the flu vaccine. You are being vaccinated with a piece of DNA or RNA, a message that tells your cells to make that little spike. And when your body makes that spike, it's going to see it and say, who is that? Bring the soldiers. All the soldiers come out to defeat that spike. So now if you were to develop coronavirus or get infected by coronavirus, the body just sees the spike. And once it sees the spike, it goes after it. And that's how the vaccine technology for the two vaccines we're talking about was developed. Okay? It's just used a piece of genetic material for the spike. Okay? So you'll see genetic vaccines, and that's Moderna and Pfizer, and then you have this virus vector vaccines. I'm gonna say that because that's gonna be talking about Johnson & Johnson's vaccine that will be coming out soon. But hold tight, let me just stick with the ones that we got right now, okay? So I'm gonna show you some pictures that makes it a little bit more simple. So I told you that there are going to be about 10 vaccines that are going to be coming out in the market using this new technology. And all 10 of them, it doesn't matter. The goal of those vaccines is to make your body produce that spike protein where those arrows are pointing to, that causes your body to then mount an immune response to beat the virus should it decide to use you as a factory. Are you with me so far?
Yes.
I'm with you, but I got a question.
Yeah, go for it.
What if your body already have that immune spike in it without getting the vaccine?
So you're saying if you've already had coronavirus before?
No, but what if your body immune system is already designed to produce a spike?
You know, your body has different types of antibodies because you've been exposed to viruses all of your life. But all different viruses have their own social security number, so to speak. Okay? So coronavirus's social security number is new. It's novel. Nobody has been exposed to it. That's why they call it the novel coronavirus.
Okay.
It's completely a new player on the scene. You haven't seen it. Okay.
So your body won't automatically have that protein.
Correct. Otherwise, you wouldn't get coronavirus to begin with if your body already got the immune response for it.
Okay.
Yeah, with me?
That was a great question.
It was. Thank you, Ms. Mary.
Amen.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What about the ones who have had corona virus already and the vaccine is available? Why are they telling the ones who already had it, if it's been, why can't they get the shot within 90 days of having the virus?
So I'm gonna answer that in two parts. Number one, when you have been exposed to the actual virus itself, your body has seen the entire guy. So it's recognizing the coronavirus and making its own antibodies. They're saying you already have, your body has made enough antibodies. We're trying to reserve for the people who are coronavirus naive and keep them from having it. They're trying to, because you got antibodies, you got blood bought antibodies because your body saw the virus and it mounted its own immune response.
Okay.
The vaccine is for the individuals who are coronavirus naive. They haven't seen it. So they're saying you can wait 90 days because the people that have been exposed, they've been testing them to see how long does their immunity last. And they're saying maybe about 2 or 3 months. That's where they're saying you can wait until 90 days because you already got coverage. Okay.
Even the ones that, what about the new virus that's, coming, that's in the U.S. now? So if they had it within 90 days.
Because I got another part of my presentation that will explain.
Okay.
We'll talk about
Okay,
the variant. But to answer your question of twofold, now they're going back and forth 2 ways, because we just got a message from Baptist Health that just told our employees, it doesn't matter if you've had coronavirus. You don't have to wait the 90 days. You can go ahead and get vaccinated because we're showing that it hasn't shown to do harm. So it just depends on who you're talking to at the moment. But yes, 90 days was the reason. That was the reason for the 90 days. But I can tell you, this is the first time in history, where physicians are getting information at the same time the patients are.
Wow.
So you will get information. I'm like, where you get that from? I got to read that too. So I'm having to soak up information at warp speed myself to be able to answer questions, because information is coming out daily. So that's a good segue into it. You got to have patience because the information is so new and it's coming out so fast. Give yourself time to synthesize it a minute. They'll say one thing the next day, and they'll say, okay, now don't worry about it. You can come get your second shot. You're like, y'all just told me 90 days. Mm-hmm. So be patient and fluid in this process, because science can sometimes be frustrating for the people that are not scientist minded. With me, I'm like, that's just what we do. We find out more information, we change. We were going down this road, now we change, we go down another road. But for the lay person, that can be extremely frustrating and seem like they don't know what they're doing. But it's just the scientific method. As we learn more, we change directions, okay? But hold that question about the variants, because I definitely want to make sure that I answer that one, okay? I want to get the basics first, the basics for just the novel one, the novel coronavirus, and we'll talk about its cousins and the variants in just a minute.
Dr. Stallworth. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
If an individual is asymptomatic and they get the vaccine, what are there any complications from that, or what should the individual expect to happen?
You're saying if somebody has not been exposed to coronavirus and they were to get the vaccine, if
an individual is asymptomatic, did not know, or had not had a test, didn't know that they were positive, and they took the vaccine, then what would be the results after taking the vaccine?
Just a bigger immune response. It will not hurt the individual, because you being exposed to the coronavirus, again, the end result is that your body is making antibodies. So you'll just have a bigger immune response.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Sure.
I had one question also.
Yes, ma'am.
My brother tested positive for COVID, and after he was released from the hospital, they said that he didn't show any antibodies.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that normal, or?
Again, because we're all individualized, there are some people that will mount an immune response right away. There are some of them that takes weeks to months to mount an immune response. So it varies. Some people's antibodies will last 3 months. Some of them will last 4 weeks. It varies. Just because he didn't develop antibodies then, he didn't have detectable antibodies. You check his blood in 4 weeks, he may have detectable antibodies. It's all individualized, and we all don't develop it at the same time.
Thank
Did that
you.
answer your question?
Yes, it did.
Okay. All right, guys, I'm gonna keep on. So again, this is a doctor slide, but what I want you to see is just the schematic. Just go straight to the picture. So the types of coronavirus vaccines that we're developing are either protein-based, the number one, that's protein-based, viral vector-based, or mRNA-based. And the mRNA is the two we're going to focus on. Remember, it's just the blueprint. Just think about a blueprint, and we just need the blueprint. That's all we got is a message to tell our cells to make a chimney, okay? It doesn't matter if you use vaccine research development 1 or development 2 or number 3. You can see out of all those pathways, the goal is for your body to make the spike protein. Get your body to make the spike protein. Your body will see the spike protein. You see the spikes is just the pieces on the outside of the coronavirus envelope. Your body makes an immune response. It's ready in case coronavirus comes knocking. Okay? So when we talk about all 10 of these, and definitely the Moderna and Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson, just think about it. At the end of the day, it's trying to make the spike protein in different ways. Okay? Any questions? So y'all, I took you to biochemistry today, guys. Y'all gonna be saying spike proteins and what that means. Okay? What is a spike protein? If you go tell your doctor that, they're gonna be so impressed. Say, I learned about the spike protein today. Okay? So if I get you to get nothing else, people, there is no live virus injected into you with this new viral technology. So you can't say, they say, I took the flu shot, got the flu. You literally cannot take the coronavirus vaccine and get coronavirus because they are not injecting coronavirus into you. It's just a genetic message.
Mhm.
Get it?
Yes.
These vaccines contain no live virus. So you cannot get COVID-19 from these vaccines. Okay? All right, so let that marinate before I move on. All right, so I'm throwing in some of Miss Crystal's questions, okay? So can you please speak to the differences between the available vaccines? Don't mind if I do. So we have 2 on the market. So we got 2 of the mRNA. Okay, I told you about the 3 top. We got 2 mRNA candidates that applied in December for the emergency use authorization from the FDA. Emergency use authorization is not full licensure from the FDA. What that is that in the face of a pandemic and people were dying, these 2 candidates had shown enough evidence that they were safe and effective in their preliminary trials. So the FDA, along with the related Biologic Product Advisory Committee and everybody known to man that stamps off vaccines, said that we agree, we reviewed the data. These 2 warrant emergency authorizations because people are dying left and right, and they have shown to show benefit and they're safe and no harm. So we'll let them pass. Okay? They are still going through clinical trials, Moderna and Pfizer, to get full licensure. Okay? At any time that they see, because we're getting vaccinated now, that they are not safe and doing what they're supposed to do, all that EUA means we can yank it completely from hands if it's showing that it's hurting people. Okay? So you may hear that this new vaccine got emergency use authorization. It's because it has not completed all of the phase trials that it needs and applied for full licensure yet. The emergency use was because we're in a pandemic and people are dying. If we can get it into the hands and then still do the trials at the same time, let's do that. So that's the difference between being fully vested versus this emergency use authorization. So when these new vaccines will be introduced, you may hear EUAs, emergency use authorization, meaning they didn't get fully blessed. They're still going through clinical trials, but the benefits they can give will far outweigh the risk. So we'll give them a pass. Okay. So emergency use authorization, are we good on that one? And what that means?
I do have a question. I think we were reviewing some information, and I know you're saying that it probably takes a while for it to get the FDA approval, but is there usually a time where you will see some long-term effects from taking a vaccination? Like, is there a certain time frame where you may see something like that, or does it take years and years and years for it to show up as a long-term side effect of taking the vaccination?
So that's the thing that long-term data will have to prove. That's why the research studies is going side by side with actual clinical studies of us getting the vaccine ourselves. There is vaccine reportable side effects and things that you can actually report to the FDA and other advisory committees. But to know if there's long-term sequelae and effects of the vaccine is still years and years down the road. But right now we're finding out that COVID syndrome is something that didn't
worse
a year ago either.
Right.
So again, to answer your question is yes, there will be long-term data that they'll collect from those things as well. Okay, so let's talk in depth about the vaccines. So Pfizer-BioNTech. So Pfizer partnered with this BioNTech to develop their mRNA vaccine candidate. So just to give you a little bit of background, so it's a two-shot series. The two we're going to talk about is a two-shot series. It's 2 shots separated by 21 days. The trial, the people that were included were 16 years of age and older. So there was no pregnant patients involved in the study. And it was 95% effective at preventing COVID-19 disease, okay? Bad COVID, 95% effective. They didn't see any difference between the individuals that had medical comorbidities, the heart diseases, the diabetes, the strokes, they didn't see any difference. 95% in me, 95% in my dad, the exact same. If you're 65 to 74, 92.9, we're 93% effective, right? Not bad at all. Now, mind you, this is going to help prevent you from developing bad COVID disease, but you could still, your body still has to be inoculated with the virus in order for that immune response to begin to show effect. So that still means if you get your vaccine, still wear your mask. Don't pull your mask down. The first day after I got my first shot, I was walking around the clinic like I was big, and I said, let me put my mask back on. You still need to wear your mask and do social distancing because you can still get the virus. You won't get the disease, but you could be a carrier to somebody who may not have the vaccine just yet. So wear your mask, okay? So let's talk about some side effects real quick. So after the first dose, you can see the numbers there, some localized pain and swelling, 78% of the time. About the time you have the second dose, 73% of the time. Systemic reactions, those are the fevers, chills, rigors. I just feel out of sorts, 59% of the time after the first dose, 69%, almost 70% after that second dose. Most common reactions, you can see that there. Injection site pain, my arm felt like it hurt for 3 days. I took me some Tylenol and I kept it moving. I felt so fatigued after my first shot. I felt like I was just climbing. It took me forever, but I'm like, I'd rather be tired than to be dead. So I could deal with those side effects. Headaches, chills, muscle aches, joint pains, and fever. So if I'm telling you to expect that, those are the things that shouldn't send you into palpitations because that could happen. But I must tell you, I'm a physician, but I'm human too. When I felt fatigued and out of sorts the second day, I kept saying, I said, did I do the right thing? Is this, I hope I didn't hurt myself. We all are human. You all have those thoughts.
Amen.
I'm not telling you not to be scared. I was terrified, but you have to make the choice based off of knowledge and not fear.
Fear.
Okay? Knowledge and not fear.
I have one question.
Yes.
What if you suffer with severe migraine headaches? And that's one of the symptoms that I have heard of as far as migraine headache after the second shot.
Right. So just with, if you taking blood pressure medicine and you're having a headache, you know, if your blood pressure is low, you can still have a headache. I would say still treat your migraine headache just like you would. Just know that it can get worse after the vaccine. Just have your medicines on.
Yeah, I have migraine headaches, so I have to take migraine medicine.
Did I answer your question?
Oh, you was fading out. I'm not sure what was going on. So
the service, it seems like the connection is a little delayed.
So just know that it could precipitate a headache.
It's in our chat.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead. Let me see if I can
understand. You hear me now?
I can hear you clear now. Now repeat what you were saying?
Good. So I'm saying it could precipitate a headache. It may just be a symptom of the vaccine, or it could be your run-of-the-mill headache. Just have your medicines ready to take if you develop a headache.
Okay, gotcha.
But it's not a contraindication for you not to get the vaccine.
Okay, just asking. Thanks.
Oh, please.
I have a question.
Now we're talking about Moderna.
Yeah. Hold on, Dr. Starworth, you're getting a little pixelated.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. You're just getting a little pixelated, and someone else had a question.
I wanted to know if you have.
If that happens, you gotta wave your hand and stop.
If you
It seems as if your video is frozen a little bit, so I don't know if it's the service or connection. Yeah. Your screen is frozen. I think we lost her.
Yeah. Let's just hold on, and she'll dial back in or join us shortly. But I do like what she said while we're waiting to join back in, when she says knowledge and not fear. And I like to rely on the scripture that says God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And it's with that sound mind that I like to tell people to make decisions that is appropriate for them. So, amen. So Dr. Starworth is back with us. Oh, amen.
Amen.
So we're handing it back over to you. Yes.
Good.
We're good. Come on. Amen. Okay.
It's flashed that my internet connection is unstable.
Okay, so let's just
So
try this.
Let me know if it stops
you
again, so I can just back out and come back in.
Okay.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay.
How about now? Am I okay now?
Yes, I was going to say, yeah, you're great. What if you
Just
stop?
let me know, throw a flag, tell me if I lose you again.
Okay, but you're fine. You're fine. Go ahead.
So we'll start with Moderna.
Okay.
Okay. Good deal. All right, so same deal. You get a theme here, guys, right? It's a 2-shot series.
Yeah, she did turn her video off, and I just think that it could be just the area she may be in. But let's just be patient. The information is very valuable that she's giving.
All right, am I back again?
Yep,
You're back again.
we're gonna have a persevering spirit. So you're
That's
doing
it.
good. So go ahead.
We're gonna pray. I'm gonna try to get us through this, guys. All right, hold on. So Moderna 2-shot serial in 18 years of age and older, still no pregnant patients yet, okay? So remember, Pfizer was 16 and older, Moderna's 18 and older.
Okay.
So the efficacy, 94% overall. Again, no difference between people that had other medical morbidities, okay? Because there's one question is, if I have a chronic condition, is one better than the other? The answer is no. Whichever one you get, that's your one, okay? So overall, 86% for those 65 years of age and older, okay? So you can see Pfizer had a little bit more efficacy in our elderly population, but what's the difference between the two? To be able to transport the Pfizer vaccine, it had to be kept at sub-freezing rural places, was not feasible. Moderna doesn't have to be as cold, it's still sub-freezing, but the Pfizer was way more unstable without being in those sub-freezing temperatures, okay? So now you know the two, mRNA, 21 days for Pfizer, 28 days for Moderna, 16 years of age and older for Pfizer, 18 years of age for Moderna. No pregnant patients were included in these trials, okay? All right, let's see if it'll let me go. All right, same kind of deal with the types of side effects. So you have a little bit more injection site swelling and pain. And definitely after that second dose, it went up to almost 90%. So expect your arm to hurt. Just expect it. Systemic symptoms, it seems to be worse after the second dose. And the most common side effects, you'll see they're listed very.
She's coming back.
All right, guys, I'm trying to figure out why I keep dropping. Y'all gonna make me move into my room with my actual router.
I was about to say, but
I may have to move in with the router.
But you sound really good now.
Yeah, you do. Very clear.
All right, let's see. Can you see my screen?
no,
I can see you.
We see you, but not your screen.
All right, let's see here.
Let me hold on. So I'm changing you once again. So you should be the host again because you dropped out.
Okay.
Yep.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we see your
can.
screen.
All right, let me speed you up. And I'm gonna run into the room with my router.
Okay. Yeah, that's just, no, go back to 22. You were talking about 22, but we couldn't see it.
All right, guys, it's gonna get dark for a minute. Hold with me.
No, you're good. It's worth it. We appreciate it.
All right, move into the room with the router.
Okay.
No judging me.
No, you,
We're not
you
judging.
cannot see a thing.
Okay, good deal.
And listen, you're the host now, so be careful and don't knock us all out, okay?
All right, I'll try my best.
Okay.
All right, girl. So same kind of deal. You with me? We're
Yes.
good?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so back to the same type of localized reactions that you saw with Pfizer. Injection site pain, headaches, chills. But I must tell you, I had some colleagues that after their second shot of Pfizer, they were missing days of work. They just felt that fatigued. My dad just got his first shot of Moderna, and he ran a temperature up to 101 for a couple of days. I just Tylenoled him down, kept talking him through, and he kept saying, I'm fine. I said, as long as you're fine, I'm fine. So just know to expect some of those reactions, and you just how to talk yourself through them. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any questions about the reactions you can have, localized reactions with the actual vaccines themselves?
I have a question. And what about this rash you're talking about?
The
Because
rash, yes.
I'm allergic to certain medications.
So I must tell you, before you take the vaccine, they're going to give you a handout. It's called like a vaccine information sheet, and it's going to have listed what is in the vaccine. And I must tell you, I'm a chemistry major, and it has on there, it'll say mRNA, some lipids, sucrose. It'll have all kind of amino acids and proteins. And when I was looking at it, and they're like, "Are you allergic to any of those?" I'm like, "Not to my knowledge." So even if you have multiple allergies, a lot of the makeup of this vaccine, a lot of individuals in of themselves are not allergic to sucrose and lipids and amino acids. That's what our body is made up of. But they do give you that list as informed consent, but it should not stop you from getting the vaccine. Now, COVID itself does cause some skin manifestations. I was talking about COVID toes earlier, and some people have developed a rash. But just like you can have reactions to different medications, vaccines too. But to my knowledge, I haven't seen people complain about a rash following the vaccines as much as I have the arm, the fatigue, the fevers, and things of that nature.
I have a question. I got a sheet. Well, I got an appointment to take, and they sent me a sheet. It said if you're on blood thinner, but I'm not on a blood thinner, but I take a low dose aspirin.
Yes, ma'am.
Once a day. Is that do I need to not take it before?
No, ma'am. Take your aspirin.
Okay.
Take your aspirin. My dad had his aspirin cholesterol medicine. You continue to take your medicines as prescribed.
Okay.
Okay. So I cannot go any further without talking about who helped develop these vaccines. Dr. Kizzmekia Corbett. This is a viral immunologist at the National Institute of Health. She was one of the leading scientists on the Moderna research and development. You talk about Black girl magic. I'm like, you guys need to know her name, Kizzmekia Corbett. So when we talk about the things that hinder us and stop us or hold us back, you need to know the evidence behind it. This did not say we want only Caucasians on the research team, or we want only Indian Americans on the research team, or only African Americans. This was pulling together of the best minds in science. And she was one of the leading viral researchers who was instrumental at Moderna's production. Okay. Know her name, Kizzmekia Corbett. Google her. Google her. Know her. So we must do her justice.
Yes.
Okay. So again, I've already talked about these little key differences between the two vaccine types. Again, just a quick peek, you'll see why do you see more Moderna, especially from the Alabama Department of Public Health versus Pfizer. And it has a lot to do with the storage requirements for the Pfizer one. Negative 30 to 80 degrees Celsius, and it's stable at 4 degrees Celsius for 5 days. After that, it's at the wazoo. So you can imagine a lot of rural, my mom and dad are from Monroeville, Alabama, rural counties. They don't have huge hospitals that are able to have freezers that keep things at that temperature for long periods of time. They just don't have that capability. Okay. So that's why you see Moderna not so cold, and it can stay stable for up to 30 days. So that's why you'll hear it more a lot than you hear Pfizer. Not because it's better than the other one, it's logistics. It's just economics. We can get it out a lot faster. And you can see when you prepare the vaccine, one vial of the Pfizer, it says 5 doses, but now they say they can get a 6 dose out of it. You may see some articles talking about they can get a 6 dose out of that Pfizer vial. So it says 5, but they can actually get 6 out of it. But you can get 10 out of that Moderna vial.
Mm.
So when you see, why y'all got Moderna instead of this one? Now you know it's logistics and not one is better than the other one.
Mm.
Economics.
Economics, that's make the world go round, right? All right, so everybody good with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it leads me to another question, and I got to run to my other room, but I left my other questions in there. So will you be required or need to take the vaccine every year? And the question to that is, we don't know. We don't know. We are a month into actually starting to vaccinate people. We don't know, well, in the US, we don't know quite yet if with these different strands, how protective are the vaccine about those strands? Because they're doing clinical research as it goes. So to say, are we going to need a vaccine every year is too early to tell. We begin to combine vaccine, and now it's a Pfizer-Moderna option in the spring of next year. We don't know. So all we know now is that you need the current one.
I was just about to ask that question. You on point.
There you go. Get the current one, and we're gonna worry about next year. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so I have to talk about Johnson & Johnson. Y'all are getting cutting edge information because any day now, watch the news. Here comes Johnson & Johnson is going to try to apply for their emergency use authorization from the FDA. They're using that same technology, but not the mRNA type. They're going to use the viral vector type. So hold with me. I'm going to try to make it plain. They took a virus, and you'll see that second dot, the human adenovirus, which causes the common cold. They're using that virus as like a car, and they're putting in different people in the car, right? Because in order to get to this destination, you need to have a red car, right? Blue car won't work, gray car won't, they got to have a red car. So the human adenovirus is just the vehicle. It's just the car. They're injecting it with that sequence to make that S protein. So it's just a different delivery system to do the same thing, to make the S protein. Okay.
Got it.
It's just a different delivery system. If I don't get that, all these vaccines are doing the same thing, just a different delivery system.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
So which vaccine is better, Pfizer or Johnson & Johnson, or does it really matter?
Right now, there is no one that's better because there is no head-to-head between them both. They're all standing alone. So the best vaccine is the one that's going to go in your arm that day.
Oh, okay. Look at you.
That's the right one.
Okay. All right.
Got me?
Got you.
So listen, you're going to hear, it's going to be this week or next week. It's going to be on all the news. Johnson & Johnson is now saying they want to join Pfizer and Moderna as a vaccine option for the people of the U.S. So the good things about it, it's a one shot. It's one and done. The other one's 2 shots. You remember, you got to come back 2-3 weeks in between. This one is one and done. The trials were individuals 18 years of age and older. But if you look at the efficacy, this is where we're going to get a little shaky. Okay.
Yeah, because I'm questioning the first and third bullet.
There you go.
That's Pastor Love talking.
There you go. So hang with me. So 66% effective at preventing, we're talking about moderate to severe COVID. Remember, you got mild COVID that stay at home, you sick for a few days, you get better. It's 66% effective at preventing moderate to severe. When you're talking about moderate to severe, that's ER hospitalizations in the unit. So it's 66% effective at preventing moderate to severe at 28 days after the shot. Okay. This is the first one where now we're seeing data about these different strands, the different variant, because the clinical trials took place in South Africa too, where they have the South African strand. And it was 57% effective in South Africa, where 95% of the cases were due to that South African variant.
Okay.
All right. Gotcha. 85% effective at preventing severe disease at 28 days after vaccination. So think about severe is hospitalizations in the unit. It's 85% effective at preventing severe disease. Meaning if you look at the 66%, 85%, so you can still get a mild case of COVID with this, but you ain't gonna go to the hospital in the unit.
With Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
Yes. Right? You can still get a little COVID, still feel down, but you ain't gonna get down by this data. And it's 100% effective at preventing hospitalizations and death. Now that's what they telling folks. When you apply for your EUA with the FDA then says, show me that data.
The data.
Yes, you're claiming this. Now you got to prove it to get an EUA. So be careful. Them numbers may change when somebody else is scrutinizing your data. When you apply for the EUA from the FDA, that means you can't hide anything. You got to show us everything, every trial, every study. So we know you ain't trying to pull the wool over our eyes saying that you have the best thing since sliced bread, and it may not be that way. So just wait. If you hear that Johnson & Johnson got their EUA, that's a game changer then. Now we got a third vaccine out there that is a one-shot deal, 100% effective at preventing hospitalizations and death. You're going to still get a little mild COVID, but you ain't going to die from it. Got me? So keep your ears peeled about Johnson & Johnson.
Yes.
All right. So this is the part I need y'all to really grab a hold on. We just talked about 3. We got Novavax. We got AstraZeneca. You got GlaxoSmithKline. You got Merck. You got so many more that are using this new technology that are in clinical trials right now. So you just like that. I'm telling you now you ain't got to be shocked when you start hearing about this vaccine and this vaccine. I'm telling you in February that they coming.
So go ahead and get ready.
Don't get ready. Tell your friends, because they're going to have more questions unless you sit down and explain to them that this is talking. But sometimes if you're reading something, it's not quite clear. That's why I'm on here as a physician trying to break it down to you to let you know in layman's terms what's going on in the background. So it's not scary for you. You're just waiting for it to come out. Okay. 10 vaccines. When you count them all up, it's about 10 that are in clinical trials right now, 10 of them. We just know about Pfizer and Moderna, and you finna hear about Johnson & Johnson soon. Okay, this next slide, this is just a quick, I got this from my Baptist homepage. This is all 10 of them. Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson right there. You see, if you scroll right to the side, this is very small. Y'all, I'm gonna read out loud. It said expected vaccine to be available in February of 2021, pending FDA emergency use authorization. It's in phase 3 trials that will compare its efficacy of a single dose versus placebo. Placebo is sugar water. So how effective is the shot versus you not getting a shot? Okay. I want you to scroll down. You see AstraZeneca in the blue. AstraZeneca is currently being used in the United Kingdom.
Wow.
Right? And it said expected vaccine to be available in the US in March, pending the FDA's emergency use authorization. It's going to require 2 doses though. It's 2 doses. The only difference between Johnson & Johnson is the logistics. But Johnson & Johnson doesn't need a sub-zero freezer. It just needs a refrigerator. So you got 1 refrigerator, 1 shot. You can see he may take over vaccinations in a couple of months. And if you go back to Johnson & Johnson's line, I think it's line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, column 5, where it says dose capacity globally. Dose capacity globally, it has
1.2.
1.2 billion.
Mm.
So
Wow.
mark my words, if they get EUA, they're going to change the landscape of vaccines availability, because they got more than Pfizer and Moderna just combined. And it's a one-shot deal.
You make people want to buy some J&J stock, Dr.
Hold
Star.
on now. No insider trading on this call. No insider trading.
We got to have a little fun.
There you go. So when you hear about the different vaccine, it shouldn't be water off your back. You already heard this. I heard that in February. Y'all need to catch up. Do some reading. Join a medical Zoom.
St. Paul Health Ministry. Amen.
All right.
So we
So
get
this is another question.
right, have to worry about all those other vaccines that's coming out.
Say again?
So we get vaccine right now, we won't have to worry about all those other vaccines that's coming out.
Correct. Now, again, as time goes on, they may find out, we got these other strains and these other variants. So we know that it's good against South Africa's, but United Kingdom got a variant. China everybody got a variant. So we need to know, is he good on him? So they may tell us we need to have Moderna and Pfizer.
What?
Maybe.
Wait a
Hang in
minute.
there. I'm asking you to understand the technology and be flexible now, because we're trying to get back to life.
Man.
Okay. So since there's a new administration in place, has health officials received any new updates on when the vaccine will be available to everybody? And what is the current requirement to receive a vaccine? Now, this is your state. From the beginning, states have been running it all. So our Alabama Department of Public Health is running the show. Baptist Health ain't running the show. Jackson Hospital is not running the show. It is the Alabama Department of Public Health. They are the distributor. So your public health department, i.e. your health department, your local county health department is saying who gets what county gets how many. They are running it. So I'm going to help you. So this is just yesterday, February the 1st. ADPH, the Alabama Department of Public Health, launches the COVID-19 vaccination eligibility check and scheduling portal. So you guys that are internet savvy, you can go to salcovidvaccine.gov, and I'll give this to Ms. Nelson to give to you guys too. If you go onto that site, you can actually check your eligibility. You can look when they're going to have their next pop-up drive-through coronavirus clinics, all that information, and you can look at it, your countywide, how many you want to schedule an appointment in Lowndes County to get your vaccine. You fill out the little questionnaire, it'll tell you if you're eligible or not eligible. So I went on there and played, and I kind of chose that no, I wasn't a healthcare worker, no, I didn't do this, no, I just stayed at home. That's I said no to everything. At the very end, it says I'm not eligible. You go through there and be truthful and answer all the questions, and it'll tell you if you're eligible to get the vaccine now or not. Because you'll see, they said my parents in Monroe County got their vaccine, and they are 62 and 68 respectively, way before they released that they're doing 65 and above. They got theirs last week. So check with your local county, your local ADPH, and they will let you know the availability, get your appointments to get yours scheduled. Okay. Now, Baptist Health, each individual healthcare system has vaccines for their employees, right? Because I got mine through the employee health department of Baptist Health. Y'all still hear me? You with me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So each healthcare system has their own few too. So I'll give Ms. Nelson a site. So just in case you want to try the Baptist system or you can't get through for whatever reason with the health department, you can always use to see if Baptist still has vaccines available. Okay. So use that site, www.alcovidvaccine.gov. Put it on your phone, hand it to friends, and it'll tell you everything you need to know about the walk-in clinics, when they're going to be available. They've actually asked for volunteers this weekend. So I know it's going to be another clinic this weekend because they're already asking for us to be volunteers to man that clinic.
Dr. Stallworth, Pastor Lover, I have a question, and I'm formulating it in my mind as I speak it. The bottom line is that we know that COVID-19 has impacted communities of color far greater.
Yes, ma'am.
How can we influence the Alabama Department of Health to have these COVID-19 vaccination clinics in areas in which people of color can have easy access to?
So that's the question you take to, and you make sure your elected officials like the mayor and all these individuals know that they definitely need to concentrate this. But we have our work to do too with educating our community about their actual, true, validated fears.
And that's why we're here today. So
Correct.
we want to give them information to make an informed decision. But also, I'm concerned that if they want to get the vaccine, that is going to be available to them so that they can get it. In other words, don't put in no remote location that don't have no bus access. So I'm just going to be plain and just hit the nail with the hammer on the head.
So somebody else was saying something.
I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
You probably already spoke on it, but anyway, if you get the vaccine and you become sick with COVID, how is the way to dictate that? Do you just go and do the rapid response test, or how does that work?
Right. So if you get the vaccine, let's say you get the vaccine and you feel like you have COVID symptoms, this is not a vaccine reaction. I think I have COVID symptoms. You still go, you can get tested. That still should not change.
Okay.
What may happen is you may have a very mild and uneventful course. That will likely be your fate.
Okay.
We had another question, Sister Crystal, in the chat that has not been addressed.
It was a couple of questions, and was another one. I know you said you wanted to grab your sheet, but I think I remembered the last two questions.
Okay.
But they said, is there too much vitamin C that you can take to keep your immune system strong? And what is the daily vitamin C intake to help boost your immunity?
I am so glad. That is a very good question. And I wish I had you in my office to talk about that, because we're going to talk about vitamins in general, because you've heard about zinc, vitamin D, vitamin C. I've heard them all. And there is, in all the literature I've read, there is no evidence for or against taking different vitamin supplements. So let's just expand past vitamin C. Let's include D, E, and zinc, and coenzyme Q10, include them all. There is no evidence for or against it for COVID-19 prevention or treatment.
Okay.
So if you choose to take them, they're not going to make anything worse. Just don't expect it to be a miracle pill and make you all better.
Thanks for the information.
Anytime.
Amen. And Sister Crystal, you had one other question.
I don't know. You probably gonna have this in your presentation, but I think you kind of addressed. Someone had questions about being pregnant or conceiving, and then also breastfeeding. So if that's in your presentation, then we can just wait. But if not,
I'll tackle those two here, because I knew those two were on the end of my talk. Those vaccines so far, Johnson & Johnson, to my knowledge, nor Moderna or Pfizer were tested in pregnant patients. So the information that they tell us is that patients or pregnant patients make a shared decision with their doctor about getting it or delaying it. But pregnancy is a high risk condition because there's two people involved and not just one. So for my pregnant patients, when I have the conversation, I recommend 4, especially if they're in the second and third trimester, where your baby's, all the organs for your child are already developed in the first trimester. So if you're in the second and third trimester, we go into that shared decision making. And if I can tell them what's out there that they didn't study in you guys, but you're still at increased risk because you may have asthma or you have chronic conditions in your pregnancy, you have diabetes with pregnancy and high blood pressure, I may recommend that for this individual, and we make the decision together. Okay. Same with breastfeeding. There's no contraindications to getting the vaccine, even if you're breastfeeding. So I still recommend that you get the vaccine as well. So pregnancy is a horse of a different color. Breastfeeding, absolutely get the vaccine.
Because I'm looking at Facebook now, there are a few questions.
Okay.
One is, do you have to get the same brand of vaccine for both injections? So if you get the Moderna one, you have to can you get Pfizer for the next one?
That is a good question. I'm so glad that person on Facebook asked that. The idea is that you would stay with the same vaccine. That's the idea, okay? The idea is if I got Moderna, stay with Moderna, because again, there are no studies with the cross reactivity between the two, right? So they can only stand by the 95% and the 88% if you get all of those of the same brand, right? If you go get Pfizer and Moderna, we don't know if that's going to give you 95%, 85%, or no, we don't know. So the goal is to stick with the one you rode with. But there are individuals that forget. They got their first shot, they lost their card, they don't know. They're supposed to be in this information in the Alabama Department of Public Health. There's a immunization registry. But again, if you're trying to do a whole bunch of shots, there may not be time to stop and go look and see which one you got the first time. But the goal is stay with the one you've gotten. If perchance they do not know, because there are going to be individuals that just do not know, that the evidence that we're saying is you don't hold up that vaccine. You give them the one that you have on hand. We just have to understand that we can't promise those numbers if you're crossing over the lines. Okay? Because that hasn't been studied.
But what if they run out of Moderna? If you had Moderna the first time,
yes, ma'am,
and they run out Moderna and have the Pfizer.
Another good question. They have expanded, those 28 days between Pfizer is 21 days and Moderna is 28 days. For both of them now, they have increased the duration. So you can go up to, they said 42 days if need be to get your second shot. So that 28 days, they want to stick by it, but they have loosened it because to cover those supply issues and with them trying to get it in. It can go up to 42 days if necessary. But they said only 6 weeks, not longer than that for both of them to get your second shot. Another
which
question.
vaccine does Baptist have?
Baptist has Pfizer. They started with Pfizer. Jackson had Moderna, from my understanding. The most of the shots that I've heard from the Alabama Department of Health have been Moderna. My parents got Moderna.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So tomorrow I'm getting my Moderna second dose.
Okay.
And I've been just hearing some stories of the side effects.
I hear you.
When do I take something for the side effects, if that should happen?
Before you go, I would take Tylenol. And if you don't have any reasons why you can't take ibuprofen or Aleve, sometimes I advocate pre-medicating. So extra strength Tylenol, ibuprofen. And for my day, I just told my dad just to schedule Tylenol. I just made him take it every 6 hours for the first day or two until his temperature broke. So you can pre-medicate ahead of time, anticipating it. And then sometimes I say when you prepare, that's when you don't have any of the side effects. So I said, be prepared for side effects and just pray that you have an uneventful course.
Yes. There were some instances that they're suggesting not to take anything 24 hours within that shot, the dose.
Yeah.
So that's why I was asking, because I know I took some Tylenol yesterday. Do I continue to take the Tylenol? I just want to make sure.
Your Tylenol. It ain't gonna make that vaccine less effective.
So you can take some before and after.
I have, and I have told my dad to. Yes,
Okay.
I have. Because again, think about it. It's science. It's all loose, right? People can be taking something from another reason, has nothing to do with the vaccine. If I got a headache, I'm gonna take a Tylenol before I go out there. I'm not gonna keep having a headache just to see what's gonna happen. So that's what I'm advocating as a physician. I would say take something.
I'm glad you cleared that up because some people were saying don't and do.
Okay. And so because of the time constraints, we're going to, if you have questions, if you could send them to me, she works right next door to us. I can bring them to her if we can't answer them. So we're going to let her finish on up because we don't want to prolong the time. So if you have any specific questions, you can send them to me, put them in the chat. I'll make sure I write them down and we'll post them in our health ministry group. If you're not a member of our St. Paul Health Ministry group, you can find us on Facebook and join the group and we will post that information. Okay. Thank you guys so much.
All right, so we'll keep on trucking. So if you're currently diagnosed with multiple chronic conditions, is there a recommended vaccine I should take because of my diagnosis? And the answer is no. Take the one that you have, and because the chronic conditions doesn't really matter as far as the efficacy goes for Moderna or the Pfizer vaccine. And I must say too, do not wait and say, well, I think Johnson & Johnson's better. I'm gonna wait until like Johnson & Johnson comes out. If the opportunity arises to take the vaccine, take the vaccine. You don't know what tomorrow holds, but you do know what's going on today. So please take every opportunity to get vaccinated and do it now. Okay. So again, the distribution, I want to put this in there. They are going through phases. You may hear they're in phase 1, they're in phase 2. So initially when it came out, all healthcare workers and individuals in long-term care facilities. And then the phase 2A was 75 years of age and older and frontier essential workers. And then they said later on by February the 8th, they're going to do other essential workers, so grocery store workers, teachers, and all those guys are rolling out in 65 to 74. And those with an increased risk of COVID disease or having serious COVID disease are going to be in the next phase. So go to that alcovidvaccine.gov to check your eligibility and see where you fall. And it will let you know if you're eligible or not in the current wave to get an appointment with the Alabama Department of Public Health. So I did want to put this down here. The Montgomery County will have vaccine clinics on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 1 until 4 p.m. And then Thursday from 8:30 to 3:30 at the Health Department on Mobile Highway. They also have a number that you can call, the 1-855-566-5333 to make an appointment for those that are not computer savvy. And vaccines are all provided free of charge because this is a pandemic, it's a public health emergency. You are not being charged for the vaccine. Okay, I cannot be done without talking about what Pastor Love alluded to was about healthcare disparities. There's an article 2 or 3 or 4 every day talking about people of color are not accessing the vaccine. And it's not just lay people. I have nurses and medical assistants that are working with me that are hesitant to get in the vaccine because they did not understand the science behind it. And there's other co-founding factors that affect our community. Talking about the transportation, the lack of being able to get to these sites. The Tuskegee experiment happened. There's mistrust in the medical community. And that's why I felt so strongly that I needed to deliver this message and that it needed to come from me. So you understand that it's people like me out there fighting for individuals like you. And if more of us got on here and talked and reached our community, then we can make a difference. Stacey Abrams showed that we can make a difference one talk at a time.
Amen.
So we understand utilization to care is not equal across all disciplines. That we have people that are working in restaurants and at Walmart that are seeing multiple people a day and at an increased risk of exposure. They know there's an educational gap and wealth gap in housing where there's 2 or 3 generations of people living in one household. All those things, we already know they affect health outcomes. So all those things combined together increase the number of cases that lead to increased hospitalizations due to severe disease, and that increases death. And you're seeing that in the African-American community. It is tearing our communities apart. Nobody on this Zoom does not know an individual that has either lost their life to COVID or is currently in the hospital battling for their life for COVID. So we have a responsibility to make sure that we don't overwhelm our healthcare system. If they only have 80 ventilators, that's it. If 200 people are sick, do not put us in the position to have to decide who gets what. That is an awful position to be when I'm asking you to do your part to protect yourself and your community. So a few statistics nationwide. You see at the top, Black people have died at a 1.5 times the rate of white people. We are at the top of the list. And we're at the bottom of the list as far as getting the vaccines. I agree with Pastor Love. There's things that we need to do to make sure it's available for our community. That's why we have to fight and cuss and bite to say, we will run our clinics ourselves. We just need you to supply us with the vaccines.
Hello.
You come up with those, I will be the first one and get a team of people with you to be able to vaccinate our communities. Maybe it should be a church thing. We have vaccine clinics at our church. If Johnson & Johnson comes up with the refrigerated version, it's a one-shot deal. We could have clinics running through our own individual churches. So we need to be creative in our own communities as well.
And Dr. Starworth, we are vested in making a difference. So that's why we're hosting this.
Absolutely. So now this is from The Guardian. This was on I think it's January the 31st. A study reveals the racial disparity as whites are vaccinated at a higher rate than Blacks. I think this is multifactorial. It's not just one thing. But I've always been told to control the controllable. Some things we don't have control over and others that we do. So don't look at it with despair, look at it with hope, because I do feel that we can turn this thing around, but it's going to take a grassroots effort from all of us. All right, so this is what I talk to my patients. I'm a card carrying member. I'm a vaccine. I've done it myself. Kudos to those who've already done their vaccine or halfway there. If I've convinced one person on their call who was not going to get the vaccine to now really consider getting it, then I have done my job. I've done it, and I feel confident that I have passed on information that's going to make you smarter and that you're going to tell other people about it. Pass the word. I am here to help and assist. And if you guys want to do this for other church groups, just let me know. But again, I feel that it's my calling to be able to get the information out there for you guys. Okay. So Ms. Crystal has a frequently asked questions and vaccine myths that I want her to make sure she gets out to you guys to kind of be able to, the things that I've heard that the virus is going to change our DNA. The vaccine is going to change your DNA, or my sister sends me different funny things that she had a plastic arm. She said, I'm going to take this to get my COVID vaccine, a plastic arm. So I've heard all the jokes. I get it. I understand. But at the end of the day, it's no laughing matter when you're seeing people dying left and right. And you now know that we have something to be able to stem the hemorrhage that we're currently experiencing in the healthcare setting. So guys, that is it for me.
Well, Dr. Starworth, before I let Krista do the closing remarks, on behalf of St. Paul African Methodist Episcopal Church office and members, I want to say thank you. The information is just so valuable, and I just know that it's making a difference. So once again, we just salute you. We pray God's divine protection over you and your family as you make a difference each and every day. With that being said, I turn it over to Sister Crystal.
Thank you, ma'am. Well, I would just really appreciate you for taking the time out. This was amazing information. We just really appreciate how thorough it was. And we will make sure that if someone has questions after this presentation, I can't imagine that there will still be questions because you really covered everything. And so we appreciate that. And she did share with me a form that has some myths on there. So I will post that in the group as well, maybe have some available. With that being said, we will be checking blood pressures on first Sunday. So if you want to get your blood pressure taken, I will make sure that that form is available for you when you come, but I will be posting that information in the health ministry group. But again, thank you so much, Dr. Stallworth. I have to buy probably about 10 boxes of Girl Scout cookies. So, so thank you guys.
Stay on my desk. Thank you.
And then for the ones that are still watching on Facebook, if you found this information to be valuable, please share this with your friends, share this with your church members, your family groups, whatever you got to do, get this information out to them so they can be informed about the vaccine and just make decisions not based off fear, but just really making a sound decision on what you should do to help protect the community. So guys, thank you so much. And we will end and say good night.
Amen. And Crystal, put in the chat box the name of our health ministry Facebook page. So I know it's St. Paul A.M.E Church Montgomery as far as the church's Facebook page, but please put in the chat the health ministry Facebook page.
Okay.
Thanks again. God bless you all.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Be safe. Be safe.
much.
Wear your mask,
Thank
social
you. Thank
distance,
you.
wash your hands. God bless you all.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.